gonna get us going here. So if this is your first time to come, we appreciate you being here. If you're watching on a recording or seeing something, do us a solid favor and leave us a comment. Make any questions if you agree, disagree, any kind of feedback. We'd love to hear.
Hmm.
Click. Sign up and do that. And we do this for free. It says so, free webinar series. But what we would really like for you to do, we do actually have a fee, and that is if you would share that with another nonprofit professional. We just want to get the information out there. Having great guests like Laurie today means a lot. Stay to the end and win. We're going to give something away, and so we appreciate you guys being here.
We're
Okay,
giving,
I'm
we're going to give
done.
some, yeah, we're giving something away from the HGA bank.
Yeah,
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 now at the end of every
yeah.
webinar, it's really cool. We have our own bank now. We made it up, Lori. We're both the CEOs of the bank. It's really, really cool.
I
But
love it. I love it.
Yeah.
hey, thanks so much for coming, Lori. It's awesome. Jason and I have been talking about software obviously for a very long time.
Mhm.
Just the advent of mobile bidding software, auction sites, the whole nine, event sites, and all that good stuff. And I know you've been immersed in the space for a long time. We're very pro software. I just want to get a few things out there. Jason and I say things like, if you're not using it, you can't afford not to, because you could literally add 30% year over year to your events, to your fundraising dollars just by adding software. That's what we've seen with certain organizations and whatnot. So if you're on the fence, today's the day to ask questions, and this is a very
Bring them
interactive webinar
on.
series. Yeah, as always. And I know you're game for that, and you're a veteran of the webinar space as well. But Lori, I really, really like your origin story, because I think you shared it last time I talked to you. I think when I was on or your webinar or something like that, when we did a Zoom. But I know that you were fundraising for your children's school, and you found out about Auctria. And will you
Right.
just tell folks obviously who you are, and how that started, and how you started with Auctria? Because I really like that story. And then we can get in the weeds about software and all that stuff.
Sure. And I'll even back it up a little further
Yeah,
to
do
show
it.
you how like dumb I was in the beginning, because
Okay.
I came from medical insurance and I
Okay.
came from pharmaceutical sales. So I had all that, business background,
Right.
but then I took off for, a couple of years when my hit kindergarten. Come
Mhm.
second grade, I raised my hand and it said sucker across my forehead. I mean, volunteer, excuse me.
Yeah.
And I volunteered for PTA, and we needed to raise money. I'm like, well, of course we need to raise money. We need to enrich the education of our students. And we decided to do an auction. But I said, never will I do something without a system in place. And I researched software top to bottom. At that point in time, things like Captera and G2 and Google reviews, none of that existed. So I
Hmm.
was just like hammering away, looking, and I found Auctria. And I knew there were a couple things that I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to print my catalogs. I wanted to have my bidders have some sort of system in place. And I wanted to set it up for the future for any sort of volunteers that came behind me. And that's how I
What
landed
year was
at,
that, Laurie? If you don't mind me interrupting, what
well,
year was that?
I'm not good at years, and Trevor's going to laugh at me. My kid was in second grade,
Yeah. We
and
did
he's
this
a
last time.
sophomore in college right
Oh, okay.
now.
Well, I've got a sophomore in college too, so I can
Yeah.
work
So
that out.
I mean,
So
we're talking, I
around
think,
06, 06, 07, so right around there.
Correct.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah, late 20
Correct.
aughts is what I was saying.
Which I would say, I would tell people software then and software now, they're not even the same. It's a
Yeah.
completely different animal now. I mean, the bones are similar, but the way that donors interact with it and the things that it does and is quite different. But I appreciate you giving that because, yeah,
Right.
I know
So
exactly where you're at.
at that point in time, I was working with it for a couple of years, and then I would email tech support all the time, which happened to be our founder and owner, Rob.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't have a single article on this website. You don't have an iota of any sort of marketing. It's just like click, purchase, ding, ding, done. I mean, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
it was all of 3 steps.
Mhm.
And I emailed him. He's like, let's go for a spin, see what you got, Laura. And that was 9 years ago. And now we have an amazing panel of networking that we do with people like you. And we love having you on our partners page. We're going up to AFP Icon in Toronto in
Yeah.
April. We're really excited about that. And we have just expanded our team tremendously. We're up to about 14 full-time people right now. We've got devs, we've got support, we've got all sorts of enhanced support, and it's really a success story. And you talk about software not being the same, and I'd love to
Yeah.
to grab those coattails, because you're 100% right. And a lot of softwares kind of develop and just hang out and hope for the best. And the fact that Auctria is founded and owned by our our founder Rob, and he is our chief development guy. So we are constantly updating the system. It's not like, oh, we're waiting for a release in the spring, or we're waiting for a release for next year. I mean, it is constantly being updated and tweaked every day, and it constantly evolves with the times, and we are always forward looking, always talking to people in the industry like you guys. What are you seeing out there? How can we make it better? How can we? Feedback is an absolute gift from our industry and from users.
Yeah.
Well,
Especially if you're open to it.
yeah.
Truly.
So let me ask you a question, because I think this is one of the things that everybody pretty much, we've talked about software, the need for it, the basic things of what it can do, how it can raise 30%, and we work with a lot of software companies all across the country, and that do all kinds of stuff. And Auctria is a great company, and so, but my question for you, because you've got this, that's why I asked the question. When was that you got into it? What would you say is the biggest change or the biggest trend? I like to talk about trends, because there's fads and trends. Fads come and go. Trends are something that kind of last and they change the behavior. What would you say are maybe the top 2 or 3 trends that you've seen in the last maybe 24 months that you're seeing as far as how people are using their software, what they're doing, how they're able to raise more money using software that would really be beneficial to those that are listening?
I say they're taking their lessons from COVID. It's funny, not funny. When COVID hit, people panicked. Oh my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And we always had online auctions for many, many years prior to COVID. And a lot of these other platforms tried to churn it out real fast, and they were charging like an extra $1,000 for people to add on online auctions. We're like, what are you talking about? This is ridiculous. As a software platform, you should be able to do online and paper and everything that you need to. And those people, I did webinars kind of like in that March, April, May, where people are panicking. And most of the conversation was, go ahead and click mass changes, silent auction, online auction, ding. And it converted everything. The rest of the webinar was talking everybody off the cliff. So, but you're talking about trends. People have taken those lessons and they feel more comfortable with that now. And now they are flexing back and forth. Now they're testing everything out, doing a little bit of online with in person. So I think the trend is people have become more comfortable with having the opportunity to reach greater audiences and not have to have everything in the room. They experienced it a little bit, and now they're realizing, oh, we can really maximize this, and we don't have to be stuck in a box or in 4 walls of a ballroom. And I think that's what people are really noticing throughout the last 12, 24 months.
Yeah.
And then secondarily, I'd say they are looking to integrate or use multiple software platforms. So if they're using Auctria for their event, how are they going to get that data into their CRM, and how are they going to steward that donor moving forward? So it's a very longitudinal experience that people are having with your community.
That's
It's
awesome.
interesting you said that, Laura, because we were just talking about Laurie, excuse me, and we
Laura's
were just
fine.
we were talking to somebody with who has a CRM company the other day, and we were like, and it's a slick system, and we really don't ever get into advertising, but we kind of were like, yeah, just use this simple situation, simple system. If you don't have something, and I say it's simple, it's just he's made it very simple for small nonprofits to be able to use it and scale with it. But you exactly what you said, all this data, if you're doing something in the old, still doing it by paper and a spreadsheet, you can't even, the amount of data that you're leaving on at your event is staggering.
Correct.
It's a roadmap.
It's a staggering amount
to the future. Yeah.
And time. You are using up so much of your time for things that you can be out there, talking to business partners and soliciting higher sponsors and doing the things that you're really skilled at instead of shuffling papers. I think maybe some people feel, a little more comfort in tasks and, did I check the boxes? But you know what? It's okay to leave go with that. And it's okay to here's the permission slip I'm giving everybody to try out some new things
Yeah.
and grow your charity.
I
Hey, I want to,
yeah.
sorry, I'm going to let you get to it. Don't get,
No, you're
I'll let
good.
you have the next one, Trevor.
Oh, okay.
My question is really specific because you just said something that we've talked about and we've experienced some with people doing, the online auction portion in advance alongside of having your regular in-person event. In our experience, there is no substitute for the in-person event. It just is, it's an amazing thing that happens. We saw the differences, obviously. That's why everybody's doing them, because they work. But to broaden that audience, give us maybe 2 or 3 things that you're seeing people who are successful at it, because we know people that are like, yeah, I've tried this and it just didn't go very well, and it really wasn't a whole lot going on and everything. What are some maybe 2 or 3 things action items that you could give people that are listening, where they're using Auctria or another software, that they could do that would
Right.
help boost that participation outside of the 4 walls, as you
Love
mentioned?
that. I love that.
So I'll address the elephant in the room. This can be very divisional in heated committee conversations where people are like, we're totally doing it. And other people are like, oh, hell no, there's no way we're going to ask people to pull out their phones when we're at the event. And I totally get it. But here's a couple things. Here's my tidbits of deciding whether or
Mhm.
not it is right for you. Here's some factors. If your group is really social and they're chatting and they're mingling and they're drinking and they're eating and they're socializing, your paper bids aren't nearly going to go as high because
Mhm.
they're not going back to
Sure.
that paper bidding.
Yeah.
Some of the
Yeah,
times I'll
and
talk to
I don't mean to. I'm sorry. I understand. I completely got that, and we've talked about that a million times about how that works. I'm talking about the people that are outside the walls. What are some, maybe
Mhm,
2 or 3 things outside the walls of software? Let's say I've already got software. Okay,
mhm,
maybe it's Auctria, maybe it's somebody else.
right.
That's fine. But what can I do with my software to get more people to participate in the event outside of that? Like, how do we get them to engage to raise money during our
Right.
gala?
So it's getting those ambassadors involved. I think that is one of your biggest keys. And they don't have to be gigantic. You can have micro ambassadors. If you're at schools, you're talking about, it doesn't have to be the PTA board, although it should be, but it
Hmm.
can be those room moms. It can be those favorite teachers. It can be because they'll have their little micro communities and the people that follow them and listen to them. So when you use something like an Auctria, um, you can easily share that individual item besides that entire page. And it's like, hey, I really like this item. I'm going to bid on it. Or I think so and so is interested in it. The more you can take it down to a personal level and then say, yeah, thank you for sending that to me. Thank you for sharing it. That's awesome. I like to do kickoffs. I like to do live streams kind of like this
Hmm.
where your audience is, whether they're on Instagram, whether they are at a meeting, whether they are on Facebook, and showing them how to get there, how to register, how to participate. So, getting a few people involved, I always say ambassadors beget ambassadors. Once somebody sees somebody else talking about it, they're like, I want in on this.
Totally. Yeah. They want
So
to
when you're
they want
saying,
to be a part of it.
the people that you see successful, they're actually going up and going, Trevor, hey, thanks for volunteering to be an ambassador, and here's 4 things we'd like you to do.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Exactly. And you hand it to them on a silver platter. You give
See,
them
I
a
think
link.
that's really good, and I think that's a good point, because a lot of times we get in the committee meeting, everybody's rah, 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 we got a great idea, and we say, yeah, we're all going to share this on social media, and we're all going to do this, and then nothing happens,
Correct.
because they go right back into real life. And
Yeah.
they've got other things. There's a life outside of baseball, you might say, and so they get tied back up in their world and what's going on. So you recommend, what I hear, if I understand you, you're recommending saying, here are 4 things that we want you to do. You're an ambassador. Here's the ambassador's checklist, and go out here and do it.
Exactly.
I
And
love that.
when you
Me
tag
too.
the people on social media, it's so much easier for them to just reshare. I do that a lot with your sponsorships and your
Hmm.
business partners because they're not living in, you're working on your event every single day. And so you know exactly what's happening on what day. They're not keeping track of it. They bought a sponsorship maybe 4 months ago. But when you tag them on it and you're like, thank you, so-and-so grocery
Mhm.
store for sponsoring us, it's kicking off now. It's going to ping on their end. Their social media person's going to catch it and they're going to be able to reshare it so much easier.
Love it. Yeah, I think it's awesome. We keep talking about this. I mean, cliche term, but this it's a smarter, not harder approach.
For
I
sure.
also, I think there's been a beautiful coalescence of using these tools to be creative at the same time that it's becoming, like you said, like you probably got this objection or what have you, or delicate pushback. No, our crowd, they're not very tech savvy and they won't be
Mm-hmm.
able to do it. And so we're outside of those times now. So seeing, the advent of all this, and of course how donors are responding to the technology, because that's how they respond to technology in their real life. It just mimics it, and
But
so
you
that's
know
been a
what?
really nice parallel.
And that's okay. Will be some people in the room. That's why you need technology that meets people where they are. At least with
Totally.
us with Auctria, we
Hmm.
have a kiosk mode. So if somebody really is that uncomfortable using their phone to bid, no problem. Here's a tablet. Let me put the bid in for
Yeah,
you
I
and
think it's
give them
cool.
white
Mhm.
glove service.
Yeah.
And then because it's essentially an online auction and it's bidding, you can even put in a max bid and let the machine bid up to whatever you think it's going to be. Now they bid up to the max that they want. The machine is bidding for them if they get outbid, and they can still wine and dine and socialize.
Mhm.
I love those
That's
sites.
been something that I made this comment a couple of episodes, or maybe it was even on on our podcast, that the real light kicked on me about that many years ago. It was after smartphones. Okay, this is in 08, 09. And I mean, I've been around it for 30 years, I go back to the days when people were handing out iPods.
Mhm.
They were trying to use iPods and hand it out, and nobody knew what an iPod was that was over the age of 18. And so it was really, that learning curve. And then all of a sudden, everybody got smartphones. And so around
Right.
2010, when it really became predominant, that's when things kicked in. And I remember sitting at an event, two young ladies sitting beside me, talking the entire time. They never stopped chattering, and they were both bidding at the same time. Oh my gosh, I got this. And did you see this one? I got this one. Never get up, drinking their wine, doing the
Mhm.
deal, raising, spending money. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is this is this is where it's going to be. And so I really, remember seeing that and that's when I became a huge advocate for it, because before I was honestly, I was kind of neutral about it. Well,
Yeah.
whatever you want to do,
Yeah.
but it was seeing what it can do. Now you mentioned something, and I think this is something gets overlooked a lot. Okay. You mentioned having, the kiosk mode or doing that. I think that it's something that gets missed in fundraising in the room. Now, we were talking about outside the room and how we get people outside the room. And I want to circle back to that in a second, because that's a big thing, I think, where there's a lot of growth can happen. But within the room as well, having call them whatever you want to, Santa's little helper,
Mhm.
advocates, putting some kind of a sash on, having a special shirt,
Super
some
smart.
kind of a notice where they can do that. I'm here to help, you
Hmm.
know, whatever. And that way they can be there to do that. Now, is that something that you're seeing more of, you're seeing less of, or is it just kind of a mixed bag? What do you see from your perspective, of
Definitely.
your
And
client
you
base?
need to work it and you need to work it into your run of show. You don't want to be competing with your keynote speaker. You don't want to be
Hmm.
competing with your paddle raise. You don't want to be so you got to strategically put it in to, into your run of show so you're not going up against yourself and competing with yourself. One of the ones that I thought was the most fun is they had their tablet for the kiosk mode, and they had a big long balloon on it. So they would just hand the tablet to whoever was working on it. They had 4 or 5 volunteers, and all of
Hmm.
them had tablets. But you could see that balloon from the entire room. So you didn't have to search for somebody that was at eye level with a sash. All you had to do was look in the sky or in the air, and you
Hmm.
knew exactly where that person was, and if you needed help it was easy to find them. That was one of my favorites.
That's really good.
Love
Something
that.
that we're seeing happen because, and I think this is directly in relation to the advertising, the things that you can do with software that you really can't do
Mm,
without it. It's a whole lot easier to post a link in social media or send an email or text or whatever however you're going to send that message out with a link back to maybe an item in the auction or something like that. If you have the software, because it takes them right there, they can register, they can see when it is, what it is,
right.
everything else that's going on, versus just posting stuff on social media. and then what happens is they post the website to their, or their whatever page to just sign up. And that's where it's, because that's the way we did it before. That's what we're doing. Yeah, we're sending them to our website. Don't send your website, send your software. Use your software links that are available to do that. And I love the idea with the balloon, because that's one of the things, somebody has a question. So where I was going with that is something we've seen in the last 2023, first time I've ever seen it. We're seeing nonprofits raise more money in the silent auction than they are in the live auction. Now, in 30 years, I've never seen that. I mean, it was always, and I'm not saying, there may be, just depending. I mean, you go to some silent auctions, they got 900 items, but they still wind up raising the same amount of money. And we were seeing that. And I think it's a direct reflection of two things. One, the organizations that are doing it, they have an advocate there to talk about whatever it is. They've got somebody versed into things, especially the high end things. $100 gift card's $100 gift card. You don't have to explain too much with it. But maybe there's a trip, a travel experience, something that's, significantly more, higher end. Does it come with installation? Does it not come with installation? They want to know things like that. And having those people there really enhance that opportunity. And my question is, and this is something I just thought about, have you ever seen anybody do that online? Do you advocate having somebody there that can answer those questions while you're doing it? Now, we have seen that during COVID because you had to answer questions, whether it was a chat feature or something within the software that they could get some help with something or ask questions. Are you seeing people do that? Because I know myself, what I've seen is once we got through it and everybody went back to live events, they kind of dropped all that. And I wonder if that might be a something that they could do to enhance that outside the room fundraising.
So we do have it so that if they need to ask a question, they can either ask a question directly to the person that's running the event, or if it's a tech question, they can go ahead and ask Auctria directly. And then if we find that it's something related to the event, we'll bounce it back to the organizer, because we don't want to speak on their behalf, of course.
Sure.
But yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. One of the other things that you talked about was, providing information for organizations as to who came. One of the things that we've always been able to put in your Google Analytics on your website page, so you know how many people were coming, what they did, where they went. And the reason I'm giving you that information, because fast forward to your sponsors for next year, because your sponsors, that's where you're making a boatload of money on, right?
Oh, for sure.
And you want to promote them, you want to have links. So we're adding in some customized analytics now within our system. So, we're always moving forward and trying to, make it the best out there so that these organizations can make more money and, house more people, feed more people, shelter more people, research on more meds, whatever it is that they're doing. So yeah, I mean, the more people ask questions, the more engaged they are. So if we can give them those answers straight on, absolutely.
Speaking of questions, if anybody's got one for Laurie, she sees a lot of clients, a lot of stuff, a lot of experiences. Let's hit her up. Let's use her.
Yeah,
So,
please. While we're here, you got the chat feature and the Q&A function if you want to do it anonymously as well. So yeah, really, really cool.
Don't do anonymous. We want to make fun of you.
Some people like it. Some people like it. Yeah.
It's funny. We see that a lot on the Facebook groups now that Facebook enabled that anonymous thing.
I don't know. I'm not on Facebook. Yeah, wild. No. Oh, really? You're seeing that on your page? Oh, your page is awesome. Yeah.
The groups, they allow you to post anonymous now, and you see a bunch of those. Not necessarily on ours, because who cares? But let me tell you, on my son's college page, there's a lot of anonymous people asking some interesting questions.
Might be some content we don't want to consume. Who knows? You know what I mean? Yeah.
So I've got a question. So what are three things? And I like asking, give me three things, because maybe there's one, maybe there's two.
Yeah.
I like prime numbers. What are two or three things that we can do as nonprofit professionals that would see an immediate boost to the software, to using, and I understand that not everybody's using Auctria, but let's just use just in general things that they could do that might not be specific to that. What are three things that are just instantly you go, okay, here are three things that you just got to be doing if you're not doing this, you're just
Missing the
shooting your
boat.
pinky toe off. What are those?
Okay. Include your whole team in there. Put them in as separate admins. There may be different levels of permissions in there.
Okay.
Include them in the process and
Love
do it
that.
early. That's probably 1 and 2, and do it early. The sooner you
You
get
mean don't just
involved,
have one person that's the gatekeeper and only one person gets to get in there?
There are
and
some
play
people
with
that want to be that person, but yeah, it's probably not a good idea.
it? I think that's actually really
That's
good.
really
Okay.
good.
Yeah. Okay. What else?
for sure, get into your software early and use it. I mean, so many times I read on our reviews, people are like, oh my gosh, we there's so much to it. We didn't realize we're going to do better next year. Learn from those people and dig into your software a little earlier, because the more that you understand it, the more you're going to be able to take advantage of all the features that are there.
Oh yeah.
That's my
Super
second
smart.
one.
Yeah.
And then for my third one is use your relationships. And I'm going back to the ambassadors before. People that have donated to you, that have interacted with you, have done it for a reason, because they love your cause. They don't care what software you're using, right? But if you use that software and maximize their exposure, then it's only going to give you that goodwill that's going to come back to you 360 degrees.
Right. We're always imploring folks. That's good, Laurie. Thank you, by the way. The next question we'll have 7. We'll ask you for a list of 7. Once
I'm
again,
in on
with
7. I could talk
with
forever.
the prime numbers. But no, we're constantly imploring folks to just get in the data, right?
Yes.
Get lost. And we're talking, Jason and I talk about doing it the night of, in real time. We always share this example of like someone that's never been to your event before, and they were bidding on a
Yes.
silent auction item, a live auction item. They gave them the fund, whatever it might be. Let's just say they were in a bidding war with someone else, and the item sold for $6,000 and they bid $5,000, but you've never met them before. And you can find out who they are in real time because you see all the bidding activity. You can see what made me think of that, of course, is you're talking about, reaching out to ambassadors and whatnot, but you understand who's given from the data. You can, I mean, right? I mean, you can see it
100%.
all.
And
It's just like,
yes. And that's
yeah.
why I mean, it's not harder to do in person. It's easy to do in person. You see exactly who they are. But with
Yes.
your online auctions or, any sort of activity, hey, you got outbid. Did bidding get too high? Would you like to make a donation? Click this button.
Love
And you
that.
do that in your outbound outbid notifications emails.
Smart.
And you can do the same thing in the room. Hey, did bidding get too high? How can we interact? Let's chat. And find some ways so that they continue to support you. Maybe they want to do matching gifts for next year. Matching gifts are so powerful. Maybe that was the 4th one. Let me add that in. I like
good.
even numbers,
Please.
Jason.
Yeah.
Well,
Matching gifts are so
I'm going to
powerful.
expand on that for a
I
second.
love that.
So, do you see something that we talk about, we've talked about in the past, and when, if we're doing a coaching session, I always talk about this at the end, after event fundraising. So something like immediately after, maybe there's some unsold items, maybe there's some things that you could sell multiples to, and you want another shot at it. Do you guys advocate that? And what are you seeing? Are you seeing that become more of a trend?
Yeah, I have a post-event email that goes out, and it's got 9 duties. I'm not going to rattle them all off to you, but it's exactly like you said. Pulling the reports, thanking everybody, digging into the data, and then taking that relationship and expanding it forward. So absolutely, for sure. And like you said, all that data is at your fingertips.
It's right there.
Go
Right
ahead
there.
and use it.
Yeah. So, and maybe I wasn't, let me re-ask it just a second. So one of the things that I think that where we miss out on, and people we see take advantage of this do exceptionally well. And here's what I mean by that. Let's just say that you had 14 things that just weren't bid on, and just for whatever reason, somebody didn't bid on them. They didn't do it. Somebody walked off and left or didn't pay for something, whatever. And you're going to know, especially when you've got software, really fast. You're going to know real fast what those things are. And one of the things that I will tell you that software is really good about doing, and Laurie will tell you this, is chasing down those funds. It makes it very, very awesome because you send a text message out saying, hey, don't forget, it's not me having to call and go, Hey Trevor, I know you had a few cocktails last night, but we want to make sure we get that paid for. I mean, it's, you're just sending them that follow up. But so you've got these things and something that you can do, and I don't know how your software works because, and this is something you have to plan for. So I want to make just,
Correct.
I think everybody has to plan to do this. You can't just have an epiphany at the end of it because usually there's an end time when it closes everything out. But you have the ability to roll over for a little longer and depending on the software, I don't know, and she can speak to how Auctria works, but where you could send out a deal saying, "Hey, last chance.
Yeah.
We hit our goal. We had 14 things that are left. We're putting them out here for a quick bid. Call it the quick bid contest or whatever. We sold Caribbean all inclusive for $2,500. We sold 11 of them last night. If you want one more shot at it, if anybody else wants one, here's your chance." Stuff like that that really builds into that event.
Creative and smart.
And we've seen a lot of success with that. I mean, we're in the trip business, so when people do it, we know whenever they do that and they go, "Oh, wait a minute, gosh, we sold 10, but after the auction we sold another 4." It happens, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we were able to ask and we got a great response because there's somebody there that missed it." And they get home and, their spouse is elbowing them that night going, "I wish you would have bought that. Why didn't you bid? Why didn't you get that?" And gives them a chance.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's great with those statements because you can trigger out the statements. And at the end of the statement, you can put on there, last chance to grab that Caribbean trip, click right here. And you can set that up as a for sale at that amount, click done. And then they have Apple
Oh,
Pay,
that's
Google
beautiful.
Pay, double click the side of their phone, and it's instantaneous.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Have you seen that, something that, in the past, it was always kind of a question. Do we have people put a credit card in? Do we not? Do swipers? The one thing that I think everybody that's ever had, that's probably made people lose their mind is the swiper's not swiping. It's not syncing. It's not working. How do you guys address that?
Okay, so I'm going to go off the board here and ask you to paradigm shift with me.
Let's do it.
Because lean in, you do not have to ask them for the credit card in the beginning. I know everybody's going to be mad. Why are you saying that? That's crazy. We're not going to get paid.
Yeah.
You know what? They will get a bidder statement. It will land on their phone. They'll click the button, and like I said, they can double click to check out. And they're going to pick their card that they want, and they can pay for it right there. If they want to do a check or a cash, they can walk up to somebody. I know everybody wants to ask, or a lot of people do want to ask for a card in advance, and that's fine too. We have ways of streamlining that. We have a express check-in, as we try to tell people. So if their credit card is not on file, you can go into our system and push out an email that says, "Hey, your credit card is not on file. Would you like to do it now in advance? 2 days in advance, 3 days in advance, whatever it is, whenever you want to trigger that." They can add their credit card, have it on file. That will give you access to the express line. The express line, you will have wine waiting for them. You will have champagne waiting for them. You will have the yummy special chocolate hors d'oeuvre, whatever it is. Bribe them to do
Oh,
that.
that's really good. I love that.
Love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
And the reason I say I truly mean this because we're in a different time now. We're 2024.
Yes.
Everybody, believe it or not, whether they're 8 or 80, pretty much they can put a credit card in their phone and buy something. We're just that's our culture.
We're
now.
conditioned now. Yeah. So.
And if you don't ask them, if you don't give them that option, they're not going to take it. If you really want everybody to show up and how they get their programs and how do they do this, and we're going to we got to get this deal. It works pretty simple. I mean, we've just seen in our experience with other people, that do it, that have just jumped in with both feet. They've like, "Oh my gosh, we've never had check in and check out so easy."
Yeah, so clean. Let me ask you a question, Laurie. It wasn't always this way, of course, and people's willingness to pre-register, pre-event. What are you seeing now as far as just how that's been received? And you don't need to necessarily give me like a statistic, but what could we hope for if we do it right for pre-registrants that are going to have that express lane, exclusivity now on the glass of champagne just for doing that and whatnot? What are we seeing as far as like, if I cast that out there, what am I going to catch? You know what I mean?
You're still going to have some people that are like, "Why am I giving
For
you a
sure.
credit card?
For
I don't
sure.
know if I'm going going to buy anything yet. And
Yeah.
that's okay. Like I said,
Yeah.
because they're going to get a payment link anyway, because they're going to
Yeah.
find something that the live auctioneer is
Mm-hmm.
talking about. And they're like, oh my gosh, I need that.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
don't want to say, no, you can't bid on it because you didn't put a card on file. Absolutely, we want their money.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
being able to close it out so fast is the best part. The only time, singular, that I've been stuck where somebody has not paid us was when they came in, gave us a check, and did stop payment on the check.
Wow.
Nasty, right?
That's
Yeah.
pretty, it's pretty cold-blooded.
Nasty.
That's cold-blooded.
Exactly. So I our experience has been that people close out instantaneously, and in the system you can see it, bang, 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 bang. They're all paying
Yeah.
if you didn't ask for a credit card in advance. If you're asking for a credit card in advance, then you can do a batch checkout, which is also fast.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing with a batch checkout, and this is for us, I can't speak for everybody, is if you want them to cover the credit card fee, the
Right.
donor, the bidder, etc. You
Right.
can't automatically add on a credit card fee to somebody without asking them.
Right.
So at that point, you would do them kind of as an individual. Do you want to charge? Do you want to cover the credit card fee? Yes, no. So you kind of have to have the interaction with them, unless you totally put it out in advance and say, hey, we're going to ask you to cover credit card fees when we process everything. And then you can batch and then you're done. And then you just have a couple of those outliers that want to come up and talk to you and,
Mm-hmm.
have that additional socialization.
Well, you may have somebody too that put down a debit card because they didn't think they're going to
Yep.
buy anything. Then they go and buy something for $10,000. They want to
Yes.
write you a check, and that's
Yes.
fine.
That's cool.
And
Totally.
but those are the exceptions, not the rule. Most everybody we see, just from our experience of it, is they process a credit card. They just, here's my card, put it on there, go, and there's just so little pushback that the ones that do are the very, very minor exception.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus, you got 2 or 3 people that are griping, complaining, and that's the majority. It's not. It's just not. We don't see it. Hey,
Right.
we got a question, and so I'd love to hear your input on this. Is what you guys see. It says, do you ever set up a price on trips and sell multiple trips at a single price? Now, I'm going to say, thank you, Nancy, for asking
Great
that.
question,
So
Nancy. Thanks.
what we do as far as what we recommend. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. So we have some trips that are, we call it a craze. That's kind of the deal. And so this would be like during the live auction. The live auction goes out. The auctioneer says, starts selling a trip, comes back and says the Caribbean all inclusive, and sells it for $2,500. And the nonprofit makes $1,000 every time. And they sell it 6 times. Well, that's $6,000 in net money that they made. So in that case, yes. We've also seen people do things where they set a fixed price for different things, and I'll give you a clue, and I want to hear, Laurie, how they handle it software-wise. It's called a buy-in, okay? So it could be the fact that it was a trip, and we said, everybody that wants to go on a trip, here it's $2,000, $2,500, whatever the number is, however much profits you want to make, and they just go in and click. We're going to offer it up, and everybody gets to go, and they either push a button because it's on a silent auction. The other thing is a buy-in. And this would be maybe something like a dinner. Okay, maybe you've got a really great dinner. It's going to be a special wine thing, and you've got to really cool guests because somebody's got access and they bring them in. And you've only got, you got 20 seats to it.
Right.
And you're going to sell it 10 times, sell 10 of them for $2,000 a piece. And that's where they would go in and do it. And so I've seen that work very successfully. The silent auction stuff, seeing it as fixed price and just saying, okay, we've got 10 of these, who wants it? Personally, I've not seen a lot of success with that. We see it successfully when people buy something and they multiple bidders, and then you go back to the 5 bidders that bid on it and go, hey, would you like it at this price, and give them a chance, and chances are they're going to step up and buy it. That's what my experience. I don't know. Have you seen any experience of that, Laurie?
Yeah, I would put it in as an item. I will put in quantity 5, quantity 10, whatever
Mhm.
those are. And then I would let it bid up. I would set my minimum, and then the top would let the system do the work for you. You never know how high those bids are going to go. Sometimes you get so surprised and you're like, oh my gosh, we've got some really generous people in our audience. And it's not necessarily the value of the trip, it's the value that they want to donate to your organization. If they don't find something they like and they're like, you know what, this trip is only worth, X amount of dollars, but I want to spend $5,000 tonight. You know, the trip was worth 2,500. I want to donate $5,000 to this
Hmm.
organization. They're going to go that high, and then it's going to push those other ones higher.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I wouldn't put in a set price. Let the
Well,
bids go
the
as
thing
high as
about
they
when you're trying
can.
to do it, you know, if you're like, and Nancy made a clarification, you know, this is not, in this case, I think it's really good, but set it at a price everybody can afford.
Let me
Make
just
it where it's,
clarify. Let me just clarify really
yeah,
quick,
please.
Nancy. That's like it's like an online appeal, correct? I mean, we're raising money online in this setting, I'm assuming. Just
Or it's a
answer us.
gala and they're not having a live auction at the gala. It could be a gala and there's just not a live
This
auction.
event is not having an auction. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, is it an in-person event or are we trying to raise money online? Um, yeah, because yeah, just want some clarification. Okay, cool.
Deal
Yeah,
without an auction.
awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I would just set it up as if you want to do the fixed price, absolutely. I would just sit there and do a fixed price and say we've got 10 or
I love
we've
that.
got a limited number of these. Everybody signs up, we're going to do a deal, but here's what I would do. I would put a time limit on it.
I
I
think
would
it's
put a
smart.
timer for everybody
Yeah,
can see, put it up
I
on
think
the
it's smart.
screen, do whatever. And because if you just don't put a timer on it and trust that everybody's going to wait till the last second and that's when they're going to bid up. Laurie's going to tell you that as well as the silent auction. They're going to wait till 12 seconds before and then they're going to bid real fast. That's just the way it happens.
Hmm.
And, but what I would say is I would put a timer on it and say, ladies and gentlemen, we have an incredible window. We've got a 20-minute dash for dollars. Everybody that signs up in the next 20 minutes is going to get this trip at this great price. You're going to help us do this thing, blah, 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 this, that, and the other.
I love
And
it.
that's how I would do
Yeah,
it because you've got to create a sense of urgency that you're not going to
I
have.
agree.
If you
yeah,
just stick it up here and say, everybody sign up anytime up the night,
yeah.
they're not going to do it because they got other stuff to do. They're drinking wine, they're talking to friends, they're going and seeing to be seen. But if you make a specific thing with a window of time, then they'll be more likely to jump on it. And that's
Okay,
with any silent auction.
I'm
I
gonna
think that's with any
yeah,
event like.
I'm gonna piggyback on that a little bit too. And I want to hear. I have a question for you, Lori, just for what like nomenclature y'all use at Auctria for things like this. But Nancy, I would also highly recommend doing a couple things. One, I would go. Don't laugh. I would go to hafundraising.com and I'd click on the free coaching button so you can spend a half hour of Jason's time with him talking about this. We give our time away for free.
It's always an hour, so it's an hour.
But
You get an
anyway,
hour.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm trying to be
yeah,
polite with your
yeah.
time, Nancy, but take the opportunity to talk it through and ask him all these questions one-on-one. That's what we do. I can do it with you as well, but that's my recommendation. Anyone that has any questions about this kind of stuff, because this is a creative way to fundraise. My other suggestion would be I would add a golden ticket.
I
If you,
was just gonna say
yeah,
that.
yeah. Sorry, Lori. Go
No,
actually.
I
Let's
know.
rewind. Lori,
I'm
what
glad
would you
we're in
do?
the
What would
same.
you do in that situation? I'm sorry. Pretend like I didn't do that. What would you do?
No, I was hoping you would say that because I
Awesome.
love hearing about golden tickets from you
Yeah.
guys.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think it's kind of a no-brainer in that setting. Yeah, great. That's fantastic. Yeah, luau's are great. Themed events are great. Lori, because I've seen different monikers used, like obviously it was like the eBay thing was what? The buy it now. And I know that we were conditioned to that, and that's like kind of like what really got a lot of folks going with the scrolling and the bidding and all that stuff. Nancy, we certainly will. Like I said, if you just want to sign up, for that, we'll spend as much time with you as we need to go over the golden ticket. It's a really cool concept. But Lori, what do you all use? Do you use like the term instant win, buy it now? What do you all
So
use with
So
with
we
your
do
site?
have buy it now, and that
Yeah,
means you're setting a price. And if you want to go grab it from somebody else,
yeah,
if there's a single item, you can do that.
yeah.
We also have buy-in parties. A lot of times it'll be
Right.
pizza party with the principal,
That's
buy
like
it
what
for
Jason was
25
talking
bucks,
about. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
which we have that also,
Cool.
top 25 people, that grab that.
Yeah, it's fun.
But then for the bidding stuff, we have the max bid where the system will upbid for you. But then we also have a oh my gosh oh my gosh, if you go to put in the bid at the last minute, it'll
Yes.
trigger that item open longer,
Oh,
so
fun.
it will keep the bidding open so that the person prior to that can
Has an
still continue to
opportunity.
bid
Yeah.
it, and
Okay.
it'll keep that window
Got it.
open so that
All
it
these things
continues to
sound
bid
are
up.
so smart. They're so
It
smart.
is, it
Yeah.
is,
Bid
and it
extension.
raises
Yeah.
more money. It
Yeah.
raises more money.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. We could talk. Yeah. Nancy, appreciate the feedback immensely.
Good extension.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, Janelle.
I know. I saw Janelle. I saw the gala gal when she came on. I said, "Hey,
I didn't
Is this because
there.
your Florida girl that's in Philadelphia is on? Is
is.
that why you're on joining us today? That's so
That's
cool.
my
Yeah,
Tampa girl. I
that's
love
what's up.
her.
Yeah. Hey,
Uh,
Bev's question. Do you see Bev's question?
yeah, I did. I was going to just say this. So, Beverly
Hi,
asked a
Bev.
question. She said, have you ever had the problem where they didn't register with a credit card, but who bid, they won, they didn't pay at the close? Now, let me give you a couple thoughts on this. One, if you're going to do anything outside of your gala walls, if that's what you're going to do, you need to have people register a card. They've got to register because you don't want some clown, and it happens. We saw this happen a few times during the COVID. They go do an event, get somebody who thinks it's funny because they go and get the link, sign up, and then they start bidding on everything, and they didn't buy anything, and they bail. What I prefer to do, my suggestion on doing this is that you go ahead and do it. Ask for the card.
Yeah.
If somebody's going to not bid, it's kind of like what Laurie said. You get some clown who's going to do something. They're just that you.
They
those are
weren't
gonna be
interested in the
exceptions.
first place.
They're not.
Yeah.
I had a client call the other day, and we were talking about it. And he said he had a guy that he was a little intoxicated, and basically he wasn't going to pay for it. And they're like, their deal was they were just going to ban the guy. If you're not going to pay for it, you can't ever come again because we don't want, you messed it up because you took it right out of somebody else's hands. But because they do use software, they were able to go to the backup bidder, go tell them what happened, and let them know that, it's available at their bid. And they were
you
able
got
to
that. You have that data right there at your fingertips.
Yeah.
That's awesome. There's always an answer.
Mhm.
To those kinds of solutions. And if that's a people exercise, right? We're just working with people. We've got to communicate, right? And you've got the data on your side. That's really, really helpful. I don't want to interrupt anyone, but I do want to do a last call for questions because we're about ready to make a withdrawal of the HGA bank for this winter as well, Jason. Just kidding. HGA is not a bank. We give away HGA bucks. It's really, really fun. Oh yeah, that is a good point, Bev. I thought about the backup bidders for sure. And Morgan says hi, Bev. We were talking about your event today. so hey, last call for questions. Laurie, awesome. So thankful. Yeah, appreciate you taking the time. I know you got a lot going on right now, and it's obviously full swing season as well. So last call for questions while we have Laurie and Jason, as a matter of fact. I get all my answers from Jason anyway, so
whatever.
You're looking over.
He always just tries to. He pushes it off on me, but he's really good. So if you need
I learned from you,
Trevor
man. I learned it from you. What are you talking about?
Okay, I've got a winner.
Let's do it.
Can I give something away? I'm dying to give something away.
I want you to. Yeah.
Our winner is Kellyanne McKay.
Cool, Kellyanne.
Congratulations. Give her a big hand.
Kellyanne, tell us where you're from in the chat feature so everyone can see where you're from and who you represent and all that good stuff. And thanks so much for coming. And Jason's going to spin the wheel.
Come on. Why is my deal not working?
We're seeing all your personal stuff. And
I know. Dadgummit. My
man, the inbox. Oh, it's so full, man.
This is just disappointing. Oh, you know what it is? Hold on. I just totally messed up.
Uh-oh.
Well, I went and restarted my computer.
Do you want to just do it? You want to do a manual? You want to just give her the manual money?
No, I mean, this won't take but just a second because we got to let her spin. I mean, that's kind of part of the fun because she might get more unless you just want to give her a big...
I was going to give her the max because you can't find your...
Oh, okay, we'll just do that. Okay, Kellyanne, because of my malfunction showing all my personal stuff to the whole wide world, we're going to just default and give you the maximum. So normally I've got this really cool wheel that we spin and it goes out there and do it. But you win $500 in HGA bucks that you get to use towards any trip that HGA has for your next fundraising event if you so choose. So
they're really cool people at HGA. You should check them out. They're really cool. They actually underwrite this webinar and our podcast, Hey Nonprofits, Raise More Money. That's a shameless plug, but I got to speak on behalf of our sponsor, HGA Fundraising.
Okay. Well, you're there in Wilmington, and we'll make sure that you get contacted and get all the information how to use it. Okay. And if anybody else has anything, feel free to reach out. We're going to send out an email. It's going to have the recording again. That way you can share it with other friends and people in the nonprofit space, or if you want to see it. It's also got there's two parts. One is a video, and the other one's just a recording, so you can just listen to it if you want to share it.
Yep.
And then the other thing is we're going to have the emails on there, and we'll put Laurie's on there as well. So if you want to reach out to her and find out more about Auctria or anywhere about using software, you can do that as well.
We're going to make you available, Laurie. I hope that's okay.
Awesome. Hit
So,
me up, hello@auctria.com, and we will answer you back.
okay, that's
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Thank you so much. Really, really cool. Yeah, hey, yeah, you'll get
Thank
the
you,
recording.
everybody.
You can share it. It'll live on forever on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe, leave us a comment, all that good stuff if you're watching this as a recording. And then I did mention, hey, nonprofits raise more money. Check it out wherever you consume your podcasts. Apple, Spotify. We have really awesome guests on. I'm sure Laurie's either been on or going to be on at some point. So, yeah, check that out. And yeah, show Laurie some love. She's really, really active on LinkedIn. And then also, what's the name of your Facebook group that's so popular?
Auction Team Talk. We just hit over 1,000 people on there.
That's so cool.
And
Good
it's
for
people
you.
just like you trying to raise money and do good stuff.
Nice. That's awesome. All right. Well,
All
cool.
right. Well, you'll join there. And until next week, we will see
Yeah.
all y'all. Wish
We'll
y'all
see
the
y'all
very,
same
very
time. Yeah,
best.
next
Let us know
week.
if we
Thank
can
you
help
all.
in any way, okay?
Yep.
Talk to you soon.
Appreciate the
Thanks
feedback,
so
everybody.
much,
Thanks so
Lori.
much. Thanks,
Thank
Laurie,
you
for the
very
time. You
much.
rock. See y'all. Bye, Gayla Gal. Later.